be able to have, for us to be able to ask questions and be able to interact with one another, for us to be able to make comments as well, and for us to have an engaging and enriching conversation as we go along. Just as a way of introduction, the Antiracism Awareness Week is born out of the passion for the Race Equality Week, as many of us are aware. This started on the 6th and it runs through to the 13th. And the Race Equality Week is an annual initiative, most especially in the United Kingdom, which is focused on promoting racial equality and inclusion. It involves various activities and campaigns, just like the one we're having this morning, where we're having a seminar for us all to learn from our speakers' lived experiences, for us to be able to understand, why we're celebrating diversity, why we're driving change, and why we're engaging in conversations, for us to address systematic racism, promote diversity in our workplaces, and also advocate for racial justice. So that is what this meeting is going to be about this morning. We are all going to be learning from one another, from our lived experiences as well, as you're aware that most of us being community members on here this morning, as we've got resourceful people who will be sharing with us their experiences, how we can learn from that, for us to understand the importance of why we are celebrating this week, because it's not just a normal week on the calendar for the year, but then for us to drive that significance of having the Anti-Racism Awareness Week. Right now, I'm going to be handing over to my colleague, Kofo, who is going to be talking to us about the Anti-Racism Wales Action Plan. And that is for us to understand the reason why we're driving this force, the reason why we're driving for a change for us to have an Anti-Racist Wales by 2030. So she'll be giving us more understanding, because it's really necessary that we have a solid foundation that we will be building on this morning for us to understand more as we go ahead. So I'm just going to hand over now to Kofo. Kofo, please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Ife, and a warm welcome to you all today. I hope I'm not echoing, sorry. A warm welcome to you all today. Sorry, I was So I'll be talking about the Anti-Racist Wales Action Plan and why the call for this plan began and the reason. So in early 2020, the Welsh government started work on an action plan for race equality due to the experiences of people from Black, Asian, and minority ethnicities, with people that are citizens, service users, people that are in institutions, various institutions, and people that are trying to gain job opportunities. This plan started and it was halted almost immediately during COVID, when the pandemic struck. But it was revisited when George Floyd was killed in the USA. Oh, sorry about that. I think there's an echo. It's better now. Better now, is it? Okay, thank you. So the killing of George Floyd sent shockwaves throughout the world with how the circumstances to his death. And this called for a revisitation of the Anti-Racist Wales Action Plan. Various Black, Asian, and minority ethnic people in different organizations have faced racism in their day-to-day lives, in the healthcare systems, in schools, in homes, and in various places. So this called for the plan to start again. A co-design of the draft plan were taken from responses of over 300 people from different ethnic minorities, people from the Welsh government and in other communities. And this led to the drive to start a change into making Wales an anti-racist nation by 2030. This is actually the vision of the Anti-Racist Wales Action Plan, to make Wales an anti-racist nation by 2030. We're not saying that Wales will become an anti-racist nation by 2030 or racism will end by 2030, but then we're saying that by 2030, we should see measurable change. We should see an impact on the positive change that is, being driven by the Welsh government and by people in power, or by every individual in Wales. So I'll be moving on to talk about the key stages to preparing this plan. The Deputy Minister, Jane Hutt, asked officials to resume work on the new Race Equality Action Plan, and Professor Emmanuel Ogbonna and Sean Morgan were invited to co-chair a steering group that put this plan together. And they included people from different organizations, academia, and other people that have in-depth knowledge and experiences of racism. And they played a central role in shaping this plan. Pre-consultations were done, there were evidence reviews done, face-to-face meetings done, work by the First Minister's Black, Asian, and Minority Ethnic COVID-19 Advisory Group, and discussions with the Wales Race Forum, Action Plan Steering Group, and an assessment impact team. So all these people came together to co-design a draft plan in creating the Antiracist Wales Action Plan documents, which serves as a voice for people who do not understand, or for people that need something to go back to in understanding anti-racism and how to deal with issues with anti-racism. So there were early messages received from people because people believe that the previous approaches taken to tackle racism were low on execution, even though they had good intentions, so to speak. They were wonderful intentions, but the execution was low. So they wanted to see action. They wanted to see real actions by our service leaders. They wanted to see actions in the NHS, in the schools, in organizations and other grassroots organizations. So they talked about how they wanted real work to be done in implementing and executing this plan. Now, what is an anti-racist action? First, I'll start by defining racism by the collective failure of an organization to provide an appropriate and professional service to people because of their color, culture, or ethnic origin. And we are defining anti-racism as actively identifying and eradicating the systems, structures, and processes that produce radically differential outcomes for ethnic minority groups, which involves acknowledging that even when we do not regard ourselves as racist, we can by doing nothing. Right. So we can be complicit in allowing racism to continue. And there was a focus on fixing ethnic minority people instead of fixing the broken systems. So people wanted to focus more on fixing the broken systems that puts people at a disadvantage of gaining job opportunities, climbing the ladder in corporate institutions, being policy leaders, or getting appointments in government parastatals. So there are 6 areas of racism that were discussed in this plan in people's everyday life. Racism when receiving services, racism in the workplace, racism in jobs and opportunities, not having enough role models to look up to, and British nation being a sanctuary nation that is providing support for refugee and asylum seekers. People still faced racism in these aspects of their everyday lives. So this action plan puts things in place to make sure people can report racism when they see them, and to put people that will be responsible for taking actions to drive change in anti-racism by 2030. There are different programs and there are different things that have been going on in making sure that this change has started taking place and in making sure that there's an execution of this plan, which is going on. And by 2030, we hope to see, measurable change and a measurable impact in different organizations, from our art theaters, from our hospitals, from galleries, from other, Welsh government organizations. So this talk is not just a mere gathering of all of us just sitting down here and talking today. It shows that we need to keep the conversations going. We need to keep driving change. And we hope that by 2030, we get to see a better Wales. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Kofo, for that wonderful, wonderful foundation that you've laid. And you would all agree with me that in understanding what the Anti-Racism Wales Action Plan is, it helps us more to be able to look up to having role models in areas where we can be able to function better as a member of diverse communities. And that is why the speakers we have this morning are people from different spheres of life who are doing amazingly well in their chosen career. And we want to hear from them because we are seeing them, as role models of what they are doing, for us to be able to learn how to do better, for us to be able to action what it is that we're working towards. Because if we want an anti-racist Wales by 2030, then we all need to put our hands on deck for us to be able to work to have a measurable impact. So for the first speaker, I'm going to be introducing Dere and Debo Omali, who are the founder of Twale Cuisine. Debo and Dere are the founders of Twale Cuisine Limited. It is an African catering business in Swansea. They both hold a master's degree in Swansea University and has been resident of Swansea for over 10 years. Debo is a former trustee of Swansea YMCA, and Darren is a former board member and chairperson of the African Community Center. Along their businesses, Debo is a part-time author and also works as a business analyst at Swansea University, and Darren works as a race and housing policy officer, focusing on racial inequalities in housing at East. They have been married for over 15 years, and they are blessed with 3 adorable children. So now I'm going to be handing over to Dere and Debo as they take us through their lived experience and having the successful business alongside their other issues. So Dere and Debo, you're welcome this morning. I'm going to hand over to you.
Thank you very much, Ife, and hello everybody. Good morning. Lovely to be being here today. Darren, if you want to unmute, we'll be talking alongside it. So yeah, lovely to meet you.
Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, because I couldn't hear anybody. Sorry. Okay, yeah. Lovely to be here. Thank you.
Okay, so I do realize, once we begin to talk, time will try and keep this brief. But just to give a bit of context into really, one of the factors that led to us was the lack of job opportunities, which incidentally was mentioned, when we're talking about the Antiracist Action Plan. At the time, I didn't understand why, but later on, it began to make sense. And aside the fact that we really couldn't get the jobs we were looking for, we actually felt as well that conversations around food would also be an opportunity to bring down barriers around, misconceptions and understanding of people from other races. So our theme, our logo for the business really is food, culture, and respect. Because in that intersection, then there's an opportunity to see that, varying people from a different background or because they look different from you, it's not such a bad thing. So before I continue, I wonder if Darren also wants to add anything here in terms of context.
Well, yeah, like you said, lack of job opportunity was one of the reasons why we started the business, and also to try and engage more or integrate more with the community which we have found ourselves at the time. Because when I look back to when I first came to Swansea and now, you can see a change in the population in terms of the number of ethnic minority people living in Swansea now. I remember when I first came to Swansea, I think it was just on the whole of St. Helens Road, it was just the flats that we were living in that had, people from my part of the world, other people were from other parts of the world, and it wasn't as diverse as it is now. And over the years, things have changed, things have started, taking a different turn. But in terms of our business, I think it has also helped in our integration into the community and, meeting people and understanding other cultures, as well as getting people to understand our own culture. So I'll pass back to Debo now.
Yeah, thank you for that. So, right now, in terms of our lived experience, and we're talking about how to use our business to an extent to contribute to the conversations around this. One of the questions I think is important to ask is why is this issue of racism so difficult? You know, it's difficult to report, it's difficult to capture, it's difficult to even understand, really. And, you know, based on experience and some of the things I've been able to note, you know, the anti-racist action plan is great. Um, and I think there's a bit of an acknowledgement there that it's a big problem that, you know, you can't deny its existence. It's there, but as much as possible, you want it to be less harmful. You know, if I think about that in the same line of anti-malarial drug, you have the anti-malarial drug because there's an existence of malaria itself, and you use such a drug in order not to be infected by it. So it doesn't mean that the illness is, you know, no longer available. It is existent, but you don't want it to be harmful. And as much as possible, I believe the goal is to eradicate it totally. I was privileged to contribute to a book titled Kamru and I sometime last year. And my story, my contribution there was really around, you know, my experience of Wales from the point of view. And the title of that article that I wrote then was called Scars, Not Weed, and a Dream. Essentially uses this analogy of you moving into a house and you know, the value drops because of knotweed. We all know what knotweed can do to properties. Really, they are very invasive, you know, quite destructive as well. And in my mind, I saw racism as quite the same. So regardless of the fact that this plant is destructive, it is still treatable to the point that, you know, it's probably almost non-existent. So back to the question of why racism is so difficult. It's difficult because the experience is subjective. Now I've been privileged not to experience any kind of physical harm because of racism, but that's not to say I have to discount the experience of others who have experienced it. Yes, I know I have been chased on the street before, on the street of Swansea. I have been threatened, you know, while walking before, you know, somebody threatened to slit my throat, you know, and called me, you know, black bastard and stuff like that. Now, because I've experienced that, doesn't mean that my reality or perception of somebody else who has experienced it at work, who is probably not, who hasn't experienced it in such a brazen way, does not mean that, you know, racism does not exist in certain quarters. So the difficulty in capturing what that looks like on the universal level does not mean that, you know, it's not there. So that's one of the reasons it's quite, that makes it difficult to report. And, you know, if you are unable to prove your experience because of how subjective it is, how then do you build an evidence against it? So these are some of the things we have noted, but thankfully, when we share, when we cater and we share our food, you know, there's a lot of commendation about the food, and you know, we begin to talk then, and you know, there's just this psychological fear of people that look different from you, largely intersectionalities as well, because of, you know, stories that we hear online. So I'll let Dana share some of our experiences as well, and we'll continue from there.
Sorry. Well, I think one experience of racism I would say that I've had in Swansea that really made an impact on me was in the thick of winter with a bus driver that tried to get me off the bus because he said that my bus ticket did not extend to the next stop. And I was like, well, you didn't even pick me from the stop that my bus ticket indicated, because at the time, because of how bad the roads were, that bus stop were informed to walk to the next bus stop because the bus couldn't come to that bus stop, and because they had to take a different route to get to the next stop. So I walked to the next stop, already cold and because I was very new in the country then. And after getting on the bus, the guy kept insisting I had to get off at the next bus stop. I was like, well, I'm one stop ahead of my ticket anyway. So why can't you just, and that was the first time I would experience such a thing, that a bus driver would insist that because my ticket says I should get off somewhere, I must get off. And everybody on the bus were like, but you didn't pick this person, even elderly Welsh people on the bus were like, it's just the next bus stop. What difference does it make? And it's really cold. The weather is bad. And then he insists that I must pay the extra fare. I was like, well, I don't have the extra fare and I can't get off because I'm really cold and tired. I was standing at the first bus stop freezing before I was told to move to the next bus stop, and I took the walk there. And the guy said, oh, I'm never going to get on a bus in Swansea again. And that he was going to put my pictures in every bus in Swansea. So that day, when I got back to my house after getting off the bus, he said he was going to call the police and tell the police to come and get off the bus. And at the time, what I realized is that usually with the bus drivers and some other people, indigent, or I don't even know if they're indigents anyway, but white-skinned people, apologies to people that are white-skinned on this call, I think they generally just feel that once you are not, or you have a different color, skin color, you don't have the right documentation to be in the country in the first place. Hence why he threatened to call the police to come and arrest me, thinking that would make me scared and get off of the bus. And I was like, I wasn't getting off because I felt that human compassion should come into play at that point in time, which was clearly lacking. So I stayed on the bus, and the other people on the bus, fortunately, they were in support. I was like, and he was like, we're not moving. So we're there. He stayed at that bus stop telling me to get off for close to 30 minutes. Yes, I would have gotten up because that 30 minutes, by then I would have reached my house. But I also wanted to just, try to prove to him that if for nothing else, be compassionate. What if I don't have money? What if, you don't even know why I'm in that situation in the first place? And then after about 45 minutes, he moved, and then he stopped at my bus stop and told me to get out of the bus and that I'm never getting on the bus again. So I was worried that possibly I was going to get to the bus stop the next day and find my pictures everywhere, because he told me there was a camera on the bus, even though I didn't see the camera, and that he has taken my pictures, blah, blah, blah. So I got home, I told my housemates, they were like, oh, don't mind them. They can't do anything. You can't take your picture. Well, I said, in case I can't get on the bus again, I need to go and learn how to drive, even though I've not even learned how to drive till now. But I was like, I need to go and get a car so that if I can't get on the bus again, I know how to get to places. And, that experience really puts a mark on me, because anytime I got on the bus, I was always very kind of worried. At least for the first 5-6 months after then, I'll look around the bus, check if my picture is really, really somewhere, or if a driver is, checking out my face to say, oh, this is the troublemaker that we don't need to get on, we don't need to allow on the bus, and things like that. So, but it just goes to say how sometimes racism doesn't allow human compassion to shine through. If not for all the other people on the bus that were like, come on, move. It's just the next stop. It's not going to make any difference to you. It's just, and you didn't pick up from our actual stop. Pick that one stop. So make up for that one stop, and the elderly people. But I was just thankful that those people, they didn't get irritated with my stubbornness at the time. They didn't start to say, okay, you get off the bus now, but they were there to support me. So whilst this one person was not being compassionate, the majority at the time, they were there to be supportive. So it was a mixed thing for me to show that, okay, Wales has some people that are caring, and also has these people that, they don't have that caring attitude. So I think that's one serious one that I would say has impacted me. In terms of getting jobs, I think the first job I got, I had to apply for it like 4 or 5 times, because every time they gave me a feedback, they keep telling me I don't have maybe the UK experience, despite the fact that the job experience I have is way ahead of the job I applied for, because I've worked, before I came to this country, I was working with an international organization. So I was kind of well-traveled to an extent. But, this UK experience kept coming in. But because I was passionate about the job and I really wanted the job, I think that made me to keep applying, and then got me to start volunteering. And then, of course, I was taking on the feedback. But at the end of the day, when I got into the job, there was a bit of gaslighting going on as well about my tone of talking, the way I address issues, because I know if any of you have come across Africans, particularly Nigerians, you know that we are very passionate when we are when there's an issue we want to deal with, and that passion comes through in our tone, in our mannerism and everything. But sometimes these things are mistaken as aggressiveness or as being coming on too strong. But over time, I've learned that, well, that's my personality. I'm not really going to, I tried to change, but it wasn't working for me. So this is me, and you take me as I am. I think that would be some of my experiences that I will share with you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dennis. So while we have shared a bit about personal experiences and about the quote unquote dark sides of these experiences, it doesn't do justice to what a lot of other people out there are facing. But despite that, there are still positives to take from this. And I can say, for one, over the years, the kind of experiences I've had on the streets of Swansea over my past 10 years or more that I've there have not exactly been the same. There's been massive change, some massive shifts, so that is good. But what are the things that contribute to this? So, for example, community engagement, I think is something we should not underestimate how strong and powerful it is, how it conveys messages. Yeah, we talk about education, but it's not just education in the classrooms. We are talking about education on the streets, education in the shops, education in the places of worship, wherever we meet, education everywhere. What does that look like? Simple conversation, having allies and challenging the situations when we do see them. Because the truth is, if you look at some of the stories Darren and I have shared, and possibly others as well, the fact that we got through unscathed didn't happen because we knew how to do it alone. It was because we had allies who saw beyond the color and saw human beings, really. And this is what it is that we see. Because on a lot of occasions, when you ask people, why are you being racist? They can't give you a solid reason. It's something they probably inherited, or heard something on about the news that people of this color, this is how they behave. So the immediate fight or flight response when they see color is, this person is dangerous, this person is here for my job, this person is here this person is here to do me harm, which is not necessarily the case. Once we are able to educate people to look past that color and you see another human being, then I believe that we create a place for empathy to actually understand, okay, this is what this person needs. Yes, we are different. It doesn't mean that, we can't get along. So that is one aspect of community engagement that we can actually do, which thankfully I can say, is where we have been to in terms of our business, because like I said, good conversations happen around food, especially when people like the food as well. And beyond that, it's really our dream to get to that point where we are able to employ people from all races, from all backgrounds, because nothing speaks more than diversity in the workplace. Darren did share about her work experience before she got that job, and the she didn't add there was, once she got into that role, she made a massive improvement to that organization, because the community they've been trying to reach for rough 5-6 years, she was able to reach it in less than 6 months of joining. And she got a commendation for that. So, and diversity in the workplace, it's not about giving people roles simply because you want to take a box to say, yeah, we have people of every color here. We are not talking about that at all. What we are referring to is having a level playing field for people to have similar opportunities to get in, and not automatically discount a person simply because of the way the name sounds or wherever they come from. And thankfully, in the world of technology, a lot of you must have heard about AI. That is causing a lot of educational institutions to rethink how assessments will be done. Because when you talk about people qualifying for a job, it's not because somebody knows how to write an essay. that you think the person knows how to do the practicality of the job. You actually have to test so many other metrics, communication, people rapport, and the actual technical skills of knowing how to do this stuff. So, and in terms of the anti-racist action plan, I am very happy that this is happening. There's a role for us to play in the different layers and tiers of, solving the issue of racism. Imagine an iceberg. We all know that we see the top above the ocean, but there's a lot more layers that goes down there. So, racism will have to be something that we do both at the surface level, at the government and legal level, at the institutional level, at the grassroots level, children level, every step of the way, something has to be done to tackle that. So in terms of, this, our experiences, I can say, yes, we have faced it quite probably not as bad as others, but we are grateful that we have experienced change. And our speakers said right before we started this is going to be an ongoing. Can't afford to give up on it. Change is possible. Change is happening, and thank you for the work you are doing, ACC and ACC. Please continue to secure those allies, and thank you to every other person who hasn't really faced it but is concerned about it. Your input make a difference. So, Darren, do you have anything to say before we round up then?
I just want to also appreciate the Race Council Camry, because they've done a lot of work with, tackling racism in Wales. And, we can see that things are changing, even though it's not like a massive big change, but you can see, like I said, I can't compare when I first came to Swansea. I came to Swansea 15 years ago. I can't compare it to now. Things have changed, things have moved on. You can see more people, getting the type of jobs that they really deserve, and not just in menial jobs because of the color of their skin. You can see people accessing opportunities that they wouldn't normally be able to access, being able to access those opportunities now. And I'm sorry that I want to call out Mrs. Iwobi, but I remember, because when I first came to Swansea, she was the, I think, Equality and Inclusion Officer for the police. And I think anywhere I went there, and I just sensed a bit of what's it called, harassment or anything, I'll just mention her name. I'll be like, I'm going to go and report to the police officer in charge of inclusion and diversity. That's what I would just say. And then it would be like everybody would try to back off and like, oh, this person knows somebody, something may happen now, or they may call the police on us, So I kind of just use that name like a gateway to break down some barriers. And of course, the ACC then, of that, with their vision around breaking barriers, encouraging community cohesion, was very helpful. So just to commend the work of the RCC, the ACC, and other organizations, ethnic minority organizations, working hard to pick up on the elements of the anti-racist action plan, and then trying to, make sure that we tackle racism as best as possible. And possibly by 2030, that dream will be achieved. So thank you for that. And thank you for having us on this platform.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. So, that's it. So, let's take questions.
All right, thank you so much, Debo and Darren Omale. That was amazing, being able to share your lived experiences, sharing stories with us, for us to, embrace diversity and the kind of experiences that we've had. And I think it's really important to talk about the fact that, we're saying we need to challenge the kind of opportunities, that diverse communities has. And I feel, that was amazing for you to be able to hone that skills, for you to start your own business. And I think that's the beauty, that comes and the strength that comes in the diverse community of not seeing the trial, but you seeing a way at which you can use that, as a stepping stone to help you be better. So thank you so much for sharing with us. And I think one thing that really, really stuck to me so far is the fact fact that, racism actually hindered human compassion. And that's the truth, and many people don't even understand, the reason why they're being racist at first. It's just something they've picked up along the way, something they've inherited, like Mr. Debo mentioned. So thank you so much for sharing with us. And so we're going to go to the next speakers, and they actually the South Wales Police. They've been amazing, who has been working with Race Cancer Camry for a while. We've been in partnership for us to, spread more words about the hate crime awareness, be able to offer support to our community members. And they're usually in the hub every Friday from the hours of 9 to 12. So joining us in the next few minutes is PC Paul Smith and Sergeant Stephen Adridge from the Hate Crime and Cohesion team. So Paul and Stephen, if I just hand over to you, thank you so much for honoring our invitation this morning. Okay, now it's
Good morning. Oh, yes, good afternoon. Thanks, Viola, thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having us. Yes, so I'm Sergeant Siobhan Aldridge, and we have PC Paul Smith here from the Hate Crime Cohesion team in Swansea, Neath Talbot. We're going to do a bit of a joint presentation today, if you will. Viola kindly asked if I'd like to come on and speak, which I'm feeling quite passionate about. And the reason being is that, and what I wanted to share is that I am a woman of colour in policing today. So it's just, I thought it'd be nice to just give a little bit about my experiences in terms of why I decided to join the police, and what my journey has been so far within policing. Obviously, things have been going on in society, nationally, globally. I thought it'd be a good context to provide to you all today, and I'm completely open to questions as well. And then Paul is going to give a presentation just as a bit of awareness in terms of our roles within hate crime and cohesion, just in terms of providing that awareness and empowerment for the communities to know that they have us as their support in terms of reporting crimes in relation to hate-related crimes. So we'll give that information at the second part. So just a bit about myself then. As I said, my name's Siobhan. I'm a sergeant currently. I have been with South Wales Police since officially 2009. So I've done different roles, which I'll just brief you on and go into shortly. But my main driver for joining the police, so my mother is Punjabi, my dad is Welsh. And my mum would share with me in terms of the experiences that she had with the police growing up. She came over to Britain when she was 12 years old in Wolverhampton, and then she studied in Swansea in terms of teaching, and that's where it progressed from there. She did have a negative experience with the police in terms of one of the incidents that happened, and she kindly shared that with me. And one of the main drivers to me to join the police, I was actually a victim of crime when I was younger, and I didn't have a very good service then. And I can appreciate that to some people that would put them off engaging, interacting, having anything to do with the police. But to me, that was a real driving force in me wanting to apply, because I really wanted to make a difference, and I didn't want people to feel how I felt. And secondly, from the police interactions I had, because I pushed myself to go for work experience in school, etc., I could not see anyone who looked like me. To put it bluntly, there was no one there that looked like me, a woman of colour or anyone of colour in the police service at that time, from who I interacted with, I must say. So for me, I wanted to be that person. I wanted to create in terms of breaking down those guards, those barriers with the communities. I wanted to be that representation, because I didn't want someone else who had the same characteristics as myself, who was a victim of crime, feeling how I did back then. And that was the main driving force for me. So I went to university and studied for my degree in police sciences. And through that, I then volunteered as a special constable. This was in the Rhondda Valley at this time. I then progressed from there to applying to be a police community support officer, where I was based in Swansea city centre, which was fantastic. It was close to home. I am from Swansea, so it was great to be. And then I applied to be a police officer and was successful. And I was based in the Bridgend districts in Middle Morgan. I've been very lucky to do various different roles. And I'm in terms of the context of today's presentation, I have been a victim of hate crime myself whilst in this role. And I think it's important to share because having been a victim of hate crime as an officer, and it was obviously racially hate related, I had a fantastic wraparound support from my colleagues. In terms of the incident itself, a member of public was racist to me. And when I have actually gone to approach to arrest the individual, a colleague of mine has stepped in and arrested that individual, stating, "You are not going to be treating or speaking to my colleague in that fashion or in that way, and you're going to be put under arrest." Now, to me, that was extremely supportive, but also empowering to know that I could trust my colleague and surrounding colleagues to look out for me, and in terms of what they can see that's happening out in the community, to stand up for people who could be, vulnerable in obviously those situations. I was in uniform. I had my uniform on. I had my protective equipment on, and still my colleague stepped in and defended me, which was extremely, it's extremely supportive. In terms of the organisation itself, the case actually went to court and it was dealt with, and I had the support from my colleagues and supervisory from then on. In terms of myself, I've passed my qualification now to be a sergeant. I've been a sergeant for a year, and this role within the hate crime and cohesion team was open, and I applied for it. I have previously been a positive action officer, equality, diversity and inclusion officer for South Wales Police. So this is where my passion really resides in terms of what I want to do in this organisation. Obviously, in terms of, we've already spoken about community cohesion and community engagement, and I completely agree. I mean, this is why we are here. We want to help the communities have a voice. We want to safeguard our communities. And we also want to challenge our own processes within South Wales Police in terms of how hate crime is dealt with and progressed. This is why we have our team in place. So us as a team here, there's only two of us. There is another two who couldn't be here today. We are small, but we are mighty in terms of what we want to do and support the communities with. As if we all kindly shared, Paul and the team are regularly popping into the Cultural Hub and various other engagement sessions with members of our communities to make sure that people know who we are, know what we represent, and what, in terms of awareness and what we're here to provide for the communities in terms of advice and support. So, as I said, if you've got any questions for me in terms of my experience, I'm more than happy to share. I just wanted to give a bit of a whistle-stop tour because didn't really want to talk about myself too much. But I'll hand over to Paul now, just to give a bit of awareness in terms of hate crime reporting and the support we can provide.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. Nice to meet you all. Just a little bit of a background on myself. I've been in policing for about 14 years now. 7 of those years were in West Yorkshire Police, which is where my accent is from. And then 7 years in South Wales Police. Been a response officer for 2 years in Swan City Centre. 5 years on the neighbourhood policing team in the city centre. And then last June, I joined as a hate crime officer on the community safety team. So since last June, we've really kind of built the team up from scratch, really, and what we do with the public. And like you said, part of that is a drop-in session with a hate crime officer every Friday 9 till 12 in the Cultural Hub. And we also have a drop-in session at the Collaboration Station at the Waterfront Museum in Swan City Centre, and that's 11 till 2 every Thursday. The message we're trying to get out there really is to encourage and promote and install confidence in people to report hate crime to South Wales Police. But even if somebody's just looking for advice without even making that phone call, is to approach myself or for leaders of the community to give their contact details to people to speak to me first if they just want just a little bit of advice before phoning the police. So that's like kind of our goal, and we do that by engagements and events. So I'm just going to go through a whistle-stop tour, just a quick presentation that I give out to different community groups, just explaining the basics of kind of our kind of remit and what a hate crime actually is. So I'll start off with what is a hate crime and a hate incident, because they're two different things, and some people get confused with the difference. So a hate crime is a criminal offence which is perceived by the victim or any other person to be motivated by hostility or prejudice based on a protected characteristic. And I'll come on to the different protected characteristics and what type of crimes there is. And a hate incident, and this is why we record it as well, is any incident which is perceived by the victim or any other person to be motivated by hostility or prejudice based on a certain characteristic. So basically, we need a crime for a hate crime, and then we just need anything else. When you perceive it to be hate related, it's a hate incident. And we make a record of hate incidents as well as crimes just to monitor community tensions and prevent further offending. So a bit like what was mentioned earlier about the bus scenario, where the bus driver wouldn't let the Darren, I think, go on to the next bus stop, isn't specifically a crime, but we would monitor that as a hate incident. And it's not to say we do nothing. We would possibly look into that further and speak to the bus company and bus driver just to find out or make them aware of that bus driver's actions as well, and just find out who that person is. And if we log that over time, there might be a running theme there with that particular person, and I'm sure that kind of behaviour wouldn't really be endorsed by the bus company either. So it's important that we know about hate crimes and hate incidents for that reason. So hostility, what does that mean? It's an unfriendliness or an aggression, an occasion when someone is unfriendly or shows they do not like something. And a prejudice is an unfair feeling, dislike for any person or group, or an assumption or an opinion about someone simply based on that person's membership of a particular group. So we have 5 protected characteristics which are recognised by law, which are race and ethnicity, religion or belief, disability, sexual orientation, and transgender identity. And some examples of hate crimes would be verbal abuse, offensive jokes, threats, assaults, hitting, punching, bullying, being made fun of, harassment, or having things stolen or damaged for a specific reason, and graffiti as well. So disabilities can include anything from learning disability, physical disability, or mental health. We have race, religion, or belief. And then we have hate crimes could happen because of who you love, what you look like, or how somebody sees their gender. So when we talk about who can be a victim of hate crime, that can be anybody, and that's including the police as well. Certain things that can cause changes in hate crime could be due to dialect language spoken, conflicts like we're seeing at the moment, or ongoing tensions abroad, and also cultural differences. So if anybody is a victim of hate crime, they shouldn't be worried about it if they don't know if it's a crime or not, or if it's a hate incident or not. If you can contact the police via 999 if it's an emergency, 101 if it's like something that's happened yesterday or the day before. You can email into the police, or you can even report it via online apps as well. So when you make a call to the police, a trained call handler from the crime integrity team would take the call. They would make sure that it's logged as the right type of crime or incident. And then all crimes or incidents will be dealt with by the neighbourhood policing team or response team. And in some cases, CID as well will take on higher crimes as well. So police community support officers in every neighbourhood sector would go around and visit that victim as well to make them aware who the local PCSOs are, just for that extra reassurance and support. We as hate crime officers make contact with every victim as well, making sure that they have the details of victim support as well, which I'll come in a little bit. So there's different ways hate crime can be dealt with. There's the basic of way in certain situations that fits is a way called restorative justice, and that's it's an out of court disposal, and it's if, for example, if someone was sexually abused and both the victim and offender agree to resolve that matter just by an apology, and the victim didn't want to take it any further than that, we could deal with it by a way called restorative justice, which will be marked as their name on our systems as it be dealt with that way. If it wants to go through the court process, then as a police service, we collect all the evidence we possibly can to prove that offence, and then we would provide that to the Crown Prosecution Service to make a decision based on the evidence that we've collected for a court disposal, to go through the court system. So another important factor is reporting a crime does not affect the asylum, refugee status, or application to leave remain in the United Kingdom. So we need to spread that message through community leaders that you need to be confident in reporting to the police any hate crime that happens or a hate incident, and not be afraid of making that phone call, which is sometimes overlooked. So why report hate crime? Every hate crime should be reported to the police by the victim or by a witness as well. The police need to know where the crime incidents are taking place and who is responsible. You don't need to worry whether it's a hate crime or hate incident. We can advise on that. And the police are victim-led and how you would like that to be dealt with as well. We'll provide every victim of hate crime with the opportunity to be referred to the Wales Hate Support Centre, which is run by Victim Support. So we refer people to Victim Support. It's a designated group for hate-related incidents. As leaders of community groups as well, you can also refer people to Victim Support, not through the police as well. Their purpose is to get somebody's life back to how it was before they had that incident that affected them. They're very good. We work very closely with them. Victim Support often contact us as hate crime officers to find out updates with what's going on with the crimes and give us information that we're not aware of as well. So we work closely with Victim Support. So my role as a hate crime officer, we provide support to the victims. We do crime reduction visits with our crime reduction tactical advisors. We make referrals to other agencies, and we can also assist with getting people mental health support. We provide support to the investigating officers and the neighbourhood policing inspectors as well. We try to reduce hate crime through what we call POP plans and OSARAs, which is when we have like an incident that may be a bit bigger and involve different agencies, where we have like a lot of calls in one area. So we work as like multi-agency working as well to try and reduce hate crime. And with repeat victims, we set up repeat victim action plans to make sure that person is not a repeat victim anymore. So we're responsible for the community engagements with events, talks and activities and drop-in sessions. We monitor and produce weekly internal community tensions and reports for Swansea and Heath Port Talbot. And we work with partner agencies like the council, support groups, YMCA and forums. So we monitor hate crimes internally as well for compliance and progression. We hold a bi-monthly scrutiny panel with the chief inspector and the senior management of all neighbourhood inspectors. So every hate crime that's over 3 months old will be scrutinised within this meeting for progression and for contact with the victim. So this ensures that crimes are being dealt with as they should. So just to give you a quick overview, these are not exact figures of hate crime for Swansea and Heath Port Talbot, but they're a rough estimate. So in total for 2023, there were approximately 760 hate crimes. And just as a breakdown to show you where these hate crimes are coming in with each protected characteristic, we had homophobic hate crimes at 134, transphobic at 33, race and religion 513, and disability at 79. So you can see there that race and religion is very high within the hate crimes that are reported to South Wales Police. And that's why it's very important that we know about every of them in order to try and tackle the offenders. A lot of the time, the same offender is responsible for a large majority of the hate crime or can go on to commit further hate crime. So just out of Swansea as well, we mentioned the drop-in sessions that we do within Swansea. Out of Swansea and Heath Port Talbot, we take part in the Safe and Heath Port Talbot events where we have hate crime tables as well. And each month that will move on to a different location within Heath Port Talbot. But the message out there is we want you to be confident in South Wales Police to report hate crime. And if anybody does report a hate crime and is not get the contacts they wanted from their officer in case, contact me or my sergeant, and we will follow that up for you as like an intermediate third party. So and just spread that message to everybody, to try and get that hate crime reported. So any questions? If everybody's got any questions, we'd love to answer them.
All right, thank you so much, Paul and Aldridge. Although we'll be having a session of question and answers towards the end, so we all can, compile our questions together, because I do know majority of us are already having questions we want to ask, especially from lived experiences, how to reach out to the police and things like that. So when we get to that session, we will be compiling our questions together, just so we have, a more controlled ground. But thank you so much, Paul and Aldridge. Thank you so much for sharing, with us. I think that is the importance of everything we're trying to do for ethnic diversity communities, not to be afraid to come up, and report these cases that happen, because it's usually happen. And from the report you just said, 513 based on race and religion alone is quite, a high number, which shows that more sensitization needs to be done, more work needs to be done, for people not to be scared to come forward and be able to report hate crime that they have experienced. So thank you so much for being here with us this afternoon. So next we're going to be having a spoken word session, and we've got an amazing artist with us this afternoon, who goes by the name Chinyere Chukwudi. Okay. Chinyere is a Nigerian author and a Swansea University creative writing course graduate. She's known for her published works, including The Crevice of Korhat, and contributions to anthologies like Sorosoki and Ensa's anthology. She's currently also a collaboration with Ono Publishers on a memoir curation she's working on. She's also a project manager at African Community Center, working on the Amandice project. And Chinyere is very passionate about storytelling and spoken words as a way of promoting diverse voices and cultural narratives. So I'm just going to hand over to Chinyere to take us, on the journey of storytelling and get us involved in a world of spoken word. Chinyere. Sorry, Chinyere, you muted.
I'm sorry about that, yeah. So a friend once asked me, how many bodies before the coroner's inquest reads right? How many protests as the coroner switched truths into pretests? How many will go down before the judge slams the gravel in favor of justice and humanity? We should all be anti-racist. The title of my presentation is Let Us Meet in the Middle. At birth, a child sees shapes, figures, and beauty, and innocence wrapped in smiles and giggles. A child knows nothing of creeds, class, and colors. A tabula rasa devoid of all the diversities that ought to unite us but divide us, unfortunately. But life writes on that innocent blank slate, and children learn that red is not just the color of apples, but blood. White is not just the color of snow, but skin. And black is not just the color of blackberries, but another shade of skin. And as children are violently weaned from these daydreams, they are indoctrinated into the politics of skin. And the 100 shades of our reality twist their hands to choose, to take sides. A ticking animosity that begets bullies, an age-long unyielding division along color lines. But I must ask, when archaeologists dig up old skeletons, do they identify them by the color of their skin? If what is left of our mortal bodies, and I must say skin, are skeletons, does that not connote that what is inside is far better than what is outside? Race or color is not an immunity to disaster. Survival bears no known identity. Bills are colorblind, and the cost of living crisis identifies as neither black nor white. Just like the sky bears the glory of stars, sun, moon, and clouds, the earth is wide enough to bear the burden of our differences and uniqueness. The foremost responsibility of adulthood lies in the ability to foster a united world and a future for these ones coming after us. I repeat again, a friend once asked, how many bodies before the coroner's inquest reads right? How many protests as the corona twist truths into pretext? How many will go down before the judge slams the gravel in favor of justice and humanity? We should all be anti-racist. Perhaps the biggest ambiguity in my years of observing the whiteness of snow and the blackness of charcoal is that those who are Black are not exactly Black, and those who are white are not exactly white. We are all in the middle. And right there in the middle of two extremes is where we ought to meet each other in handshakes and not fist fights. The middle is where truth resides. The middle is the center of compassion. The middle is the balance of our humanity. The middle is where love lives. The middle is the heart and soul of fellow feeling. The middle is where we should meet. We should all be anti-racist. Let us meet in the middle. Thank you.
Oh, wow, that was amazing. Thank you so much, Shieri. Thank you so much for, that amazing spoken word. And trust me, it's just so much compelling for everyone to know, the innocence of a child, but then how heartbreaking it is for when children start to know what colors, mean a different thing. I mean, white no longer means snow. It now means the color of the skin. Black no longer means the charcoal. It now means the color of the skin as well. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. That's really, really, really powerful. And thanks for calling out to every one of us, for us all to meet in the middle. And that's how we can all work. We are coming together to put our hands on the deck and saying we want an anti-racist Wales before on 2030, and for us to work on having what we want. Thank you so much, Nyeri. Thank you so much. So now moving on to the last speaker of the afternoon, that is Saeed Bashir. Saeed Bashir is the Managing Director of African, Saeed Bashir is the Managing Director of African Community Center. He is a Nigerian born UK resident who owns a degree in business management and economics from Swansea University. Saeed is passionate about community service and is dedicated to empowering and supporting individuals within the African community. Through his background in business management and economics, Saeed bridges cultural gaps and advocates for minority welfare in Wales. So everyone, can we please welcome Saeed as he takes on the floor for the last speaker for this afternoon. Saeed, please, the floor is yours. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you for having me. Good afternoon, everyone. I'll be the only one speaking from my end, so I'll try to keep it as short as possible. My name is Saeed, and as Ife polishly mentioned, I'm the manager for the African Community Center, and as you know, our goal is to promote community cohesion and, break down barriers by community engagement and, just serving the community in any way possible we can to promote integration. Now, I'll give you a little bit of an introduction to, how I came into this role, or, how I found my way into community or charity work. So I went to Swansea University, and just like most people alluded to, racism is out there. It's prevalent in every fabric really that we can, look into. So when I was in uni starting, me and friends of mine that are from different countries, and if you know, Swansea University is quite diverse. As far as the people that come in, they come from all over the world, and we used to have a group of friends that we just come talk about our countries, our cultures, what issues we have in our countries, and why the UK specifically is a good place to be, because all of these structures and economy are more structured in a way. But then down the line, as you integrate into the society, then you start to pinpoint major issues that would kind of shock you into, one of them is racism, as we've been alluded to as, what the topic of today is, anti-racism awareness. So racism is one of those things that if you're not familiar with it, being new into the community or the society, it kind of, you don't really feel the effect till it really hits you. They used to talk about racism and we just used to be in our bubble and, as Darian and Debo alluded to about not necessarily, going through a lot, but, I've seen the changes over the year. It's been a lot similar to me. I've been in Swansea a little bit over a decade now, and I can really see how it's improved over time. But there definitely used to be times when, the minority groups weren't as structured or weren't as public as as it is now. So incidences that are really shocking. Like I myself, I've been a victim of racism, discrimination. You mentioned it. Like I've been sucker punched just coming out of a restaurant trying to go to my house to get food, and a white guy and his girlfriend just punched me in the back of my head, and trying to fight, trying to beat me up really with a group of friends. And it's the first time I ever encountered racism and what that looked like. I had people telling me just around really for no reason. I was literally just walking, telling me to go back to my country, F off, all sorts of things. And to be honest with you, I used to be a really hothead back in the day as well. So I wasn't just about to back down in any way. So I was like getting into it and trying to react to it. But then the police came, and before anything, because there was a woman or his partner rather that was confronting me in a way, I was almost deemed to be the one provoking or the one being aggressive. So we all got taken into custody, and now until the people around actually gave information about what had happened, I was literally considered as part of the problem or the one that was causing the issue. But I won't really get into that. There's been so many other instances, even with the police, just stopping me for no reason and telling me, they had a report that someone wearing a white shirt was causing mayhem in the local area. So that's the reason why they had to stop me to, just being in a room. But for the sake of this conversation, I don't really want to bring light into the blatant racism that is going on, but more so the quiet ones, the ones you can't really point your fingers at. So I work at the African Community Center, and we work with different ethnic minority groups that come in and, access our services. And the one thing you sort of, when you work at the ACC, you see you see what diversity and embracing cultures and equality looks like, because everyone that comes in just comes in with either their problems or comes in with their culture, race is all out the window, and we sort of cater to everyone in the same way. And I think just being who we are over time has created that space for us to be able, for people to be able to come in and feel like, regardless of my skin color, I know I'm going to be treated the same way. But at the same time, we've seen the spectrum of discrimination, bias, racism that the people in the community actually go through, from employment to housing to just social incidents and issues that just happens. And sometimes it's almost hard for them to translate what that looks like. So what I kind of want to put out there is, you know, while we're trying to tackle racism in this day and age, we shouldn't focus on the blatant one. The blatant ones, you know, there's pretty much laws protecting that, but there are also a lot of other things that racism can come in a shape of, you know, and I think with the anti-racism action plan that has been, you know, put into policy in Wales, it almost gives a clear definition. That's one thing I like about, you know, the anti-racism action plan. Like, it gives a very clear definition of what racism could look like. Because there's people that are racist, they don't even know they're being racist. You know, there's people that you say they're racist, they can't even define what racism is. You know, so it gives a very clear definition, and it almost like opens up, you know, a whole conversation about where it could stem from. And for me, it almost boils down to bias. You know, there are so many bias that is prevalent in Wales specifically that is just so ridiculous. And the other thing is superiority complex that, you know, people that tend to be racist have. They can come from the worst background, the most disadvantaged, you know, backgrounds. Like, they probably even need help from the person they're being racist to. But just because of that superiority complex that they have, you know, they're just outright mean for no reason. So I think this anti-racism action plan actually like sheds light into what racism could look like and what the responsibilities are for people to be able to tackle or combat racism. So the way I see it, Chinyere, you know, alluded to this point about meeting in the middle, right? It's very important to meet in the middle, and that comes from both sides. You're not pulling away. It's not a tug of war. You know, you're coming to meet in the middle. And I think anti-racism action plan brings that other end down to the middle. While we're fighting racism in our own ways, in our own lives, in our own day-to-day, because no one is going to come and fight racism for anyone individually. But collectively, what the anti-racism action plan does is to push that line down to the middle. I was going to sort of make an analogy. I was sharing it with Chinyere, who's my colleague in work, about how I see anti-racism as almost like what a corporate responsibility is to an organization or to a company that operates in a certain area. It doesn't matter what company it is, it doesn't matter what the scale is, it doesn't matter what it produces, as long as you operate and live and dwell and make money from this particular location or society, you have a corporate responsibility to that area. And even in business school, they teach you, like, you know, your stakeholders are your community. If you're operating a business anywhere, your stakeholders, just as much as the board members, the employees, the customers, the community is as much a stakeholder as anyone else. And in that way, we can't sit in the middle anymore. This is what my message would be. It's you have to be either fighting against it from the left or the right. There's no sitting in the middle. There's no being quiet about racism. You have to actively, in your own way, push that line to the middle. You know, we talked about not being able to end racism. I mean, I wish it was possible, but I'm a realist, and I know that it's almost virtually impossible to say we're going to eradicate racism, or, you know, whatever fringes that stems out of racism ultimately. But what we can do through this anti-racism action plan is to have a measured goal, as Kofo, you know, kindly presented to us at the beginning of the of this webinar is to have a realistic goal that in 2030, even if we haven't reached a no racism Wales or a racism that's without a Wales that is without racism, at least we have some measured goals that we can look back and be like, yeah, we've actually achieved this, either in a workplace, either in societies, anywhere really. Is just to actively try and promote it. Almost a perfect example before I end would be how racism is tackled in football. Now, it's a very corrupt, everyone knows it's a very corrupt organization in different ways. But one thing they do is no matter what, they either have a badge saying, you know, no racism, or, you know, have at every game, you know, say something, just create that awareness. The more you create the awareness about racism and people understanding that it's within us and, you know, we need to sort of police each other and watch how we talk and how we speak to people, I think it will go a long way to solving that. So for me, I would, you know, just like to leave you with that piece. And if, you know, anyone has any questions, feel free to, you know, ask. I'm hoping to have a dialogue. I wish it could be a little bit more of a dialogue in this. But thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Zahid. Thank you so much for sharing with us the importance work that the African Community Center is doing. Thanks for sharing your experiences with us as well. And thanks for that call, you know, telling every one of us that we cannot afford to sit on the fence any longer. You just have to do something. Everyone has an individual responsibility for us to be able to, you know, have the anti-racist Wales that we all want to have. And if we're going to have an immeasurable impact before 2030, you and I have a lot of work to do. And part of what we're doing is to encourage every one of us here, and as an individual or organization, to sign up to our Zero Racism campaign. And it's our way of, you know, we calling everyone as an individual responsibility, you know, to be anti-racist, and also to be able to bridge that gap and be able to advocate for minority welfare in Wales. So my colleague Kofo is going to be dropping the link in the chat box, and that's for us to have, just click on that link, go through that and sign up. It would be nice for us to have, we've gotten, if I'm not mistaken, over 2,000 signees already. We are campaigning, you know, for us to have an anti-racist way of saying we're not going to have any tolerance for racism in Wales. Thank you so much, Zahid. So now we'll be going to the question and answer session, because I know we all have questions for our speakers, from Debo and Darren, who started, you know, sharing with us the amazing journey in Swansea, to Paul and Hadridge, and of course Zahid, who rounded up this session this afternoon. So please, if you have any question, you can indicate using the sticker so that we can call on you, or probably if you prefer to put that in the chat box, then of course we will be able to read that out. And if you want to send that to me personally as well, that is totally fine. So if you have any questions, contributions as well, comment as well, whatever it is that you want to add to this seminar this afternoon, please do well to just signify, and then I'm going to ask you to unmute, and then we can have the floor. Usually that will be like 30 seconds per person, because we're really trying to keep this short. So do you have questions, comments? Okay, yeah, Momal, please go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yeah, so I have a question in terms of doing businesses and avoiding the racism and all. So my friend has a shop in Swansea Market, and it's a like candles and diffusers she sells. So she goes through this racism almost every other day from the fellow shop owner. So those are like two guys, they sell fish there, and her shop is next to their shop. So every morning she lights some diffusers and candles, and they just say like one swear word and say, oh, fuck this smoke and smell, all this thing, you know. And then she's thinking, well, you guys are selling fish. Fish has more smell than not the diffusers, isn't it? She goes through that thing every other day, which puts me off to even thinking, oh, should I, because I want to open my own stall there as well. So I was thinking, oh, is it a good idea to go in the market and like open your own food stall or something, because there's no Indian eatery there. So I was thinking to do that. There's another thing, I think I'll again refer as white British lady. She sells Mexican food, but she has issues with the Thai food there. So I don't understand. It's like, you know, but the way just saying that, oh, they put sugar in their food, they do this just so that whoever coming to her stall say, okay, maybe Thai food has more sugar, so we should avoid and eat healthy, things like that in the market. Because I've been living in Swansea more than 14 years now, and I use market a lot. So these are the things I see. A lot of shops open, they close, open, they close. So how to tackle this thing in the local market, where the itself council and market, they want to make it very diverse. They want to open, like, you know, they want to give space to different cultures to make it more multicultural, the market, indoor market. So I don't know how, like, this is a question to the speakers as well, how we can tackle that thing in the market. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Momo. Which of our speakers would love to go first?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay.
Oh, go on, say no, you go first.
Thank you. So, from a business point of view, thank you for asking that question about it's very important. Okay, so there are three things I'd like to say about this. First and foremost, don't let that experience
Sorry, Mr. Debo, we cannot hear you properly.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's a bit better.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, sorry. So I was saying that I have about three things to say about this. I'll make it quick. First and foremost, don't let that experience put you off. Reason because if we don't have more people to expose, you know, the people in that community to the diverse nature of these things, then it will be defeating the purpose of the conversation we are having of encouraging, you know, a lot more integration. So first and foremost, don't let that put you off. Yes, it's scary, it's not pleasant, but people engaged in unpleasant conversations and difficult situations in order for us to get to the level of acceptance that we have now. So first and foremost, don't let that put you off. Then secondly, it's amazing that this same Swansea market is the market that we celebrate that was actually awarded. I don't remember what the award was, but you know, across the UK as a fantastic market. And I believe it's the fact that it's multicultural was one of the things that's actually got it this recognition. So in that, I believe the market authority themselves have work to do in this situation, because every other person that has a stall there is interdependent on the other. The fact that you have an Indian shop there, a Mexican food selling, and the fish there, all these people attract different kind of customers. It increases the footfall in there. So the fact that you know have something different is actually helping the other fish business, because they are not only just coming to buy food, they pass there, they see some fish they need, and they take it from there as well. So you know, the community is not like it's not a solo effort. If you know those other shops are not there, then that market will be incomplete. You know, so we all need each other. So I believe, you know, conversations need to be held with the market authority to actually sit down and talk with all their marketers. And as a matter of fact, I don't know what the criteria is for getting people in there, but some of those things should be that they should be good neighbors, including being anti-racist. So those are just a few things I want to chip in, but please don't let that discourage you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Debo. Paul and Adridge, what's your response to that in regards to probably reporting that?
Amal, thank you for raising that today. Obviously, we weren't aware of that on the team in terms of there's possible tensions going on within the market. Just to echo Mr. Deborah, I'd completely agree. Please don't let that put you off, seeking out your own business within the market itself. My one query would be is if your friend is attending, I'd like to think they would have a business meeting for all the proprietors within the market. I mean, when I was a PCSO a few years ago, they would be having these collective meets. So I don't know if that has been raised in terms of the management of the market there. Are you aware of that at all?
No, I'm not, because she has open. It's been only 2 months she has open, and then she's facing all these things every other day.
No, of course. Obviously, in terms of those issues in the market, I would say that the first thing would be is in terms of to raise it to management, because they may not even be aware, and they can start to put some parameters in place and have discussions with business owners, etc. Because obviously they would want the environment to be working as cohesively as possible. In terms of what is actually said to her, you said there was swearing from one of the fishmongers.
Yeah, so they didn't directly say it to her, but they said it. Oh, this smoke. This, like, every morning when she tries to put some diffusers on in her shop, then she hears things like that, and then both husband and wife just ignore.
Right, okay. In terms of that, obviously, without knowing the full extent as to what happened, obviously appreciate from yourself, it's kind of third-hand information, if that makes sense. I wouldn't discourage your friend reporting things to us, because even though there may not be a line of investigation in terms of the legal parameters, if you will, it can certainly be logged down as attention, because in terms of, if we think about our mapping within the communities, it is important. And obviously, if you think of the market in itself, it is a small community made up of various different community members, but it is a community within itself. It would be good for us to be able to know all that information as well, because then we can raise it with our neighbourhood policing teams, like the Swansea City Centre neighbourhood policing team, who may patrol through the markets. And through that, we can also signpost them to actually engage with her.
So what?
Sorry, go on.
What I can do on every Friday, as one of your member is here, maybe I can call her to come and see, and then she can speak directly.
Yes, that would be brilliant. That was going to be my next point to call, to say if she's more than comfortable to come into the cultural hub. I mean, this is why we're here. So, but again, if there's any issues, you've got our contact details as well. If your friend's got any queries that she wishes to ask, obviously we want everyone to be feeling as comfortable as possible within the communities. And obviously, if there's something that we can respectfully address with the management within the market ourselves, as that kind of I'd say mediate, if you will, as in taking the information to them and asking them what are they also going to help to do about it to support your friend, and then we can move from there then. But yes, we will be there on Friday this week. So if your friend is able to come in then, or it'll be the following Friday, and we'd be happy to talk to her.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for that. I can see Maggie's hand is up. Maggie, please ask your question. Maggie, you're muted.
Sorry, I'm muted. Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for a really insightful session. I want very quickly, I'm Richard Davis's wife, and I just wanted from him, because he's not here, to say hi to Deryn and Debo, because he knew them in ACC days, so hi. But the main thing for me was that just how much came out about everybody who's spoken is a change maker in their own way. It's been really powerful, I think, to hear that. And it seemed to me that if I'm going to try to be anti-racist, I realise I'm privileged, I'm white. I'm privileged by being white. How can I better be a change maker? Because to be anti-racist, you have to be active. You have to be doing something that challenges racism. How can I better be a change maker, please?
Can I go first if I put my hand up? Is that okay?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Sorry, I can't work soon to actually put the virtual hand up. So, Maggie, thank you so much for what the kind words you just said there. Just in terms of for myself, I'm not going to take up too much time, but the key message for me would be instead of being a bystander, be an upstander for good people within the community in terms of being anti-racist. Some people do kind of feel a bit intimidated themselves as to how to raise or respond to certain situations, but especially from our team's perspective, we do encourage people to report if they've witnessed anything but haven't necessarily been a victim, if that makes sense. And being that upstander is actually, you know, that person may feel so in fear that they may feel, oh, I don't know how to report to police. I don't know, you know, I don't want to report to the police. But even just making that phone call to us is making us aware, so we can just reach out and provide that support to someone who's, you know, in that time of need. So just from me, myself, I would say that would be our message to you, if that makes sense.
Oh, thank you so much, Hadrid, for that. Debo and Darren, do you have anything you want to add to that? Sahid?
Yeah.
Okay, okay, Mr. Debo, please go ahead.
Sorry, we can't hear you.
Oh, can you hear me?
Better now, thank you.
In terms of being anti-racist, there's an element of personal responsibility there, which Siobhan has highlighted, and I just wanted to this from another perspective.
So, Mr.
Really,
Debo, we can't hear you
we talk
properly.
about having
Okay.
allies. Oh,
I think it's better now.
Don't know what's happening with my sound there. Okay. Yeah, sorry about that. So I was saying, in terms of being anti-racist, one of the things I also mentioned was, having allies, and you can also be an ally by taking some of the responsibility for, engaging in conversations, for example. And I want to cite a scenario now, really. I know there was a time we were living in a neighborhood, and I was wondering where all the, Welsh and white neighbors went to. But it turned out that, as more as ethnic people were moving in, they were moving out. And my question was, these people shouldn't be moving out because these people are moving in. If you want them to integrate well, fully into your community, you'll have to be around to teach them your ways and not blame them for not knowing what to do when they are here. So in such a situation, if you come across such people who actually like, yeah, I'm going to move out because you're moving in, you tell them, no, this is an opportunity for you to engage with them. And that way, we can improve our communication and our relationships, and thereby break down the walls of being racist. So those are one of the ways we can also think of. So thank you again on regards to
Thank you so much, Mr. Debo. Kofo, I can see your hand is up. I think you have a comment.
Yes, thank you, Ife. I just wanted to make a comment or a suggestion to to Maggie's question. So I've been privileged to be in various anti-racism trainings, and I learned something. They taught us about 3 zones in tackling anti-racism. And one of the zones is the fear zone, the second is the learning zone, and the third is the growth zone. So the fear zone is for like the bystanders, people that are afraid to ask questions or engage in, the difficult conversations, or people that think, this is not sort of their business. And since they've not said anything bad to anyone, then they're not racists. So that is the fear zone. But to leave the fear zone and become better in terms of helping people that are experiencing racism is to leave the fear zone and start from the learning zone. That is having those difficult conversations, learning from people from diverse ethnicities, wanting to know them, their culture, their food, anything, and just being sensitive to when you feel that something is not right. Because when you feel that something is not right, then it probably isn't right. Being in spaces where people are being spoken rudely to, or people are just the covert, behaviors of people, then if you feel it is not right, then see somebody that has more experience or people from grassroots organizations that you can talk to. Just share what you've seen, even though you're not sure if it is right or not, or you're not sure of how you felt at that instant. And then that leads you to the growth zone, because of course, I think most of us are still in the learning zone because things come up every time, every day that we see as new. So learning properly, or trying to learn and get experiences, going to different events, just sitting and watching and listening to people, because we all have wells of lived experiences, can help to be better or to become a better ally. And reporting issues to the police, to just anybody. Like our sister Daring said, when she sees anything, she just mentions someone's name, and then they think, oh, she's probably going to report us to someone. She has mentioned the police, but she didn't mention the big police. She just mentioned someone she knows in the police, or made a referral to someone she knows in the police. So that leads you then to the growth zone. That way you've picked up different things from people with lived experiences, and people that can tell you, oh, that was probably a hate crime incident, that was probably a racist incident, and that can help you become a better ally. And like Shoban said, not being a bystander really helps, and being sensitive to our environment to help people from different backgrounds, really. That's my contribution.
I was just going to add on to what Maggie asked, and I'm a very strong believer that whatever our biases are, ultimately it will be rooted from somewhere. And, as a kid growing up, or as anyone really getting into something new, it's what's very close to us that affects us the most. So if I were to learn a bad behavior, it would be from something that is very close to me, that I learned it from. So my answer to your question would be, within your inner and small circle, try to encourage it, not to police it, but either by teaching the younger ones within your family, your friends, or just trying to be a little bit more proactive. Because I think one thing is respect, regardless of where you're from. And if you really deep racism to the core of it, it's just that lack of respect for difference. So once you can begin to embed that into the people around you, or to encourage it, I think it goes a long way. In my culture, there is this saying that sort of goes like, you need to treat a stranger better than your own family. That's like a blanket rule. So if there's a stranger that comes into my house, he needs to be treated better than anyone else within my family. So it's almost encouraging that people, deserve respect regardless of where they are from. Like, equality is key. I think just understanding that we are equal regardless, rich, poor, young, old, black, white, anything, we are equal, and respect has to be given to everyone.
Thank you so much, Saheed. Sister Terry, do you want to respond to the question, or do you have a comment, just so we know? You're muted.
Yeah, thank you. I said partly to respond to the question and to contribute to what everyone has said as well. Yeah, first of all, thank you, Maggie, for bringing greetings from Richard. Richard has been very supportive and, been a good friend to us, and also to ACC as an organization. So thank you for that. Yeah, so what I wanted to say is that sometimes too, it may not be, should I say, realistic to act in the moment that you see something that you want to, tackle. But to have it at the back of your mind that whilst I may not be able to act right now, I can still do something about it. Do something about it, maybe in your little circle, or maybe start something to make a change. You know, it may not, and sometimes it's not always individual. So sorry, I have to mention your husband's name. He's been supportive of the ACC for many years. I think that is his own way of trying to make a change to tackle issues that the ACC is tackling. You know, I can't forget how he you know, goes through our funding bids to help us tweak this here and there to make sure that things are sounding right to where it's going to. And that's a way of providing support, of bringing about a change, because if we sent it the way we felt is the okay way, he knows better where it is going. He's giving us that education to make it better. So in tackling anti-racism, it may also be a way of also trying to educate us as well without the target of the racism, that, okay, perhaps if we approach this way, maybe it will be better next time. So the onus is not just on you to, you know, want to be a change maker, to change things from your own end. It may also be that to teach us how to also be better ourselves. So that's just what I want to say. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Sister Darren, for that. Edith, I can see your hand is up.
Yes, it's not really me. It's Jill, the one who wants to say something. Okay, it's me, troublemaker. I really wanted to challenge ourselves here, as most of us are working and familiar with the multicultural hub here in the Grand Theatre. So I was having a conversation with the barista in the cafe downstairs, and she tells me that lots of people see people from different ethnicities climbing the stairs, going in the lift, and they are always asking, what goes on up there? We have absolutely nothing to tell people outside that we are here. And to me, that seems a huge missed opportunity. And it also says something, doesn't it, about a building which belongs to the local authority. And I wonder, is there something going on there as well? We're a human rights city, and we know there are other things underneath that I'm not going to bring up now, but I do think we should address that and let people know that we are here, because otherwise we're preaching to the converted, and much as I do as much as I can within my own circle, which is vast, to promote multiculturalism and even teach people how they can respond or how they can welcome, that sort of thing. But I think sometimes we have to look at what are we doing, and maybe we miss that because we're actually working in the environments. It's really important, I think.
Oh, thank you so much, Jill, for that. Thank you so much for raising that. I'm sure that will be discussed more further. And although I do not have full information about that, but I know some works are actually in pipeline to making sure that, you know, we have the appropriate signage for people to know that we're actually, you know, here and the things that we're doing. Thank you so much. Do we have any other person who want to ask any question, make a comment just before we bring this seminar to a close? And can I just ask that we all switch over videos, please, just for us to have a quick snapshot? So please switch up your videos. If your video is not on, please switch it on, just so we can all have like a bright smile. Priscilla, my photographer. Favor, I can see you. Thank you for joining us all. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us this afternoon. I really hope that, you know, this has challenged so many of us, you know, on ways at which we can be an active anti-racist, calling for us to have an anti-racist Wales by 2030, and for us to stop being on the fence, being a bystander, and actually working towards having an anti-racism Wales, and also understanding the significance of we having an awareness week. So that's just not a date in the calendar. It's not just something we celebrate as an annual thing, but a thing that actually calling all of us to an active session where we have to be proactive and at the same time reactive to things that are going on. Thank you so much to all our speakers for honoring our invitation. Thanks to everyone for taking our time from their busy schedule to be here this afternoon. And I really hope that we've all had a wonderful session. You know, we've all had a wonderful time learning from our lived experiences, helping us to understand the reason why we are actually advocating for change, advocating for an anti-racist Wales. Thank you all so much for joining us this afternoon, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.